Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to week 3 of our webinar. And we'll just give it a few more minutes, maybe 2 minutes, to allow more participants to log in to join our webinar, and then we'll continue. Thank you for joining in, Francis. Thank you, Innocent, Isaac. You're most welcome. Kasiri, Katrina, Lisa. Thank you for joining us, Sharon. Let's just give it a few, 2 more minutes, and then we can join. We can start. In the meantime, you can maybe just introduce yourself in the chat box. So you can say where you come from and maybe which course you are taking as just part of introduction. Thank you. Welcome, Catherine. Welcome, Amadou. Welcome, Sonia. Liz, Josiah, you're most welcome. Yes, we are at the top of the hour. We are 3 minutes past the time, and it's a good time to start. And I will start by introducing myself. My name is Joyce Shikuku, and I'm the East Africa Regional Coordinator for West Mountain Initiative, and I'm based in Kilifi, Kenya. Welcome all to week 3 of the online academy. And this is, we are focusing on the SWOT analysis. It is a focus for both NGO and CBO registrants. So we have our delighted presenter today. His name is Inas Ongus. Inas is the Director, Advancement and Partnership with Overseas Departments of Resource Mobilization, Alumni Relations, Partnerships and External Linkages, and MasterCard Foundation Initiative at the United States International University, Africa. He has served as a Chief Manager and Development with leading organizations in Kenya. And Inas holds a Bachelor of Science in Information Systems and Technology from the United States International University, Africa, and a MasterCard degree in Leadership and Management from York St. John University in the United Kingdom. His work centers around change management, leadership development, resource mobilization, community empowerment and development. And he also regularly donates his time, finances, and skills to support community health, social work, and educational programs. Thank you so much, Inas, for accepting our invitation to be our presenter today. And now I'd like to hand it over to you to educate our scholars. Thank you.
So much, Joyce. And first and foremost, allow me to recognize and appreciate the work, that WMI is putting to equip and support, scholars and alumni, towards getting ready, for the job market, and also not just getting ready for the job market, but impacting, the world, making the world a better place. That is why you go through this academy, online academy. You've got the NGO track, and you've got the business or the commercial track. All these are aimed towards making the world, a better place. So I just want to congratulate the team, and I'm looking forward, to us having this engagement. So as you've had, fellow scholars, that my name is Ines, and my approach, to presentation is I would want us to engage I would want us to dialogue. I would want us to discuss. I would want us to have a conversation. So as we walk through the presentation, that is the SWOT, the SWOT analysis, it's important that you put your comments in the chat, so that if I happen to spot it, then I can address it in the subsequent presentations. If I missed on it, then at the end of the presentation, the question answer session, then you can as well ask, then we'll be able to have dialogue. The other thing that I would want to make clear is that we are sharing knowledge, and there's certain aspect of it that you may know, as a scholar, you've done your research, based on what you've done your research about, based on what you know, can you also share thoughts? Can you also share perspective? So it's not a one-way kind of discussions or dialogue. It is a two-way. So if you've got some thoughts around certain topics that we are talking about today, please feel free to share, because knowledge exchange is a powerful way of becoming better as a scholar, but also enriching some of the ideas that you've got, because people will be giving you feedback, on that area. So allow me to project, my presentation so that we are able to start off. Okay, just, yeah, I've got it. Just, let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen. You can put it on, yes, it's on presentation mode.
Thank you very much. Yes. So the topic that we want to cover today is about SWOT, and of course, SWOT stands for strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats, and what I expect us to have learned at the end of this facilitation period is that, do we have an appreciation of what SWOT is? Why? What is the importance, of the SWOT analysis? And who needs it in the first place? Who needs SWOT? How do we conduct or perform a SWOT analysis? What are some of the benefits and pitfalls that we do encounter when we do this SWOT analysis? How then do we go about implementing the SWOT analysis? And then we will also be having a sample organization, in terms of the case studies, around how we do implement SWOT. So the case studies are twofold. I have picked a startup, not-for-profit organization, but I've also picked up, an established, organizations. And the reason why that happens is that you will notice that even if you have an existing established institution or organization, there is always the question around how do you improve? And the way to improve is to go about conducting SWOT, SWOT analysis, either at the departmental level or at the institution level. And even as you do the startup, you might need your SWOT at the point of startup. But as you are having long-term plans about your business or your not-for-profit organization in 5 years, in 10 years, you will always be required to conduct SWOT analysis with a view of improving your organization or your business, or improving on your operations, as a department or as an entity. So what does SWOT stands for? It stands for strength, stands for weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So even as we are going this presentation, I would want us to open up in terms of, we will be looking at organization ideas that we got in terms of the SWOT analysis, but you can also do your own personal SWOT analysis, as we go through this, because all these areas also applies to us. If it applies to an institution, it applies to an individual, because if you recognize what your strengths are, you recognize what the weaknesses are, that you have, because once you know what your weaknesses are, then you work on areas of improvement, and then you know what the opportunities are, and you know the things that are a threat, to your growth or your success, then you become better as a person. So if we are to take anything from this presentation, then it's something to do with how do we do our own personal SWOT analysis, similar to how we do our own institutional analysis, So the SWOT is a planning tool, is a planning tool. So again, planning is everything. Somebody will tell you that if you spend more time planning, then execution becomes much easier, because again, now once you plan something, you do everything mapped out, then in terms of operationalization become easier. So in aiding you to plan, SWOT analysis is part of that, planning tool, because it helps you to understand, what are the strengths of this entity that I would like to start if it does not exist? What are the weaknesses that I see that I have while getting into this venture? What do I see as the opportunity? And where are threats likely to come from, so that now I can put some mitigation measures. So it's a planning tool. It's important. SWOT analysis is important because it helps us to plan. It's help us to know where we are, and it also help us know where we are going. And it also help us to quick scan, of the environment. It is also used as a framework for organizing. Once you've done the planning, the SWOT analysis will help you organize, and using that data and information gained from your situation analysis to support your internal environment, and the external environment. And we'll be seeing some of the samples or examples, on how we are using SWOT analysis as a framework for organizing our thoughts, to help us now have clarity on which direction, we are going as an entity which is just starting up, or as an entity that started up and needs to scale. This is also a technique that enables a group or an individual move from everyday problems, because once you have it as a planning tool, it will help you. How then do I address my immediate everyday problems, while focusing on some of the strategies, that can assist in terms of a fresh perspective, to grow a fresh perspective, to how, basically we do things, and become better in our own internal operations. So again, introducing this, we know what that acronym stands for: strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then it's a planning tool. It helps us to organize our thinking together as an entity, but it's also a technique to help us to have a future perspective, in as much as it helps us to understand, what our immediate, environment, basically are. When we talk about strength, what do we mean when you talk about strength? Because once we understand what strength is, then you can begin doing your own analysis and start stripping down what the strengths are. So strength are characteristics of a business, and it can be a business, or it can be a not-for-profit. It can be a business, a CBO, something of commercial nature, and something which is of, impact. So again, the distinction between a business, and a not-for-profit. Businesses, there's a gain in terms of the profit. Not-for-profit, there's a gain in terms of surplus. So what distinction do exist? In terms of a not-for-profit, if you make a surplus, you reinvest back that surplus into the expansion and the growth. On the business side, if you make a profit, then there is always a determination of you need to pay something to the shareholders, and all that, depending on whether it's limited, something like that. So you need to kind of pay back, try come up with a mechanism. Of course, you can plow back, grow the business, but you can also start thinking about how then do you pay people in terms of now their shareholdings and all that, depending on the kind of entity and the arrangement that you have. So strength are those characteristics that give the entity an advantage over the others. What advantage do you have? So if you are a not-for-profit organization, you might be having an advantage that the people who are working for you have the right expertise. So your advantage as a not-for-profit is the expertise that of the team. Now that becomes what you sell. The other advantage could be, that you have a unique, proposal, or you have a unique need that you are addressing that other entities do not have. So something that could be your strength is how you did your market analysis and again, before you get to the SWOT, you'll have done your market analysis to identify what the gaps are. So the gaps, how you identify those gaps becomes also your strength, because you are able to find something to sell in terms of the uniqueness of your approach, to solving some of the challenges that you've gotten as a not-for-profit, or some of the commercial, gaps that you'd want to address by starting, an entity. These strengths are positive, tangible, and intangible attributes internal to the organization. What you need to recognize that strength as something which is internal to the organization, is internal to you as a person. What could be a personal strength, for example? Personal strength could be, I'm a good communicator. I have passion. I am determined. I have resilience. Those are things that are personal, to you as a person. Organizations could be having things which are tangible and intangible attributes internal to that particular organization. In terms of the structure, we have a lean organizational structure, and therefore now there is no bureaucracies, within the entity. Now that becomes a strength internal to the organization. Many of the partners, people who are on the NGO track, when you'll be looking for funding, many of the partners out there who are supporting or are giving funding do not like structures that takes a lot of time, for decisions to be made. So your internal strength is that I have a lean governance structure as a not-for-profit, and therefore decision-making is easier. We will be able to give you feedback within the next 24 hours. Partners would love something like that. So a structure, the governance, if it is lean and it is responsive, that gives you a competitive advantage, and that is internal to the organization. Maybe systems, we have systems that process information or process, data, in a record time and track, so we will be able to resolve. We have mechanism in place to resolve customer complaints, or, client satisfaction, or clients' inquiries within 2 hours of those inquiries being launched. Now, that speaks to efficiency. So those could be strength, tangible or intangible, attributable to internal to an organization. Beneficial factors. What are these strengths again? These are beneficial factors of the organization, the capabilities of an organization, which includes human competencies. So again, if you have, a team, the competency of that team is a strength to that, that organization. And that could be part of your board of trustees or board of directors, or that could be part of the staffing in terms of the senior leadership, or even just any other person that you employ to work with you. The other area is your process capability. How fast are your systems efficient and effective? The other area is financial. How financially stable is your entity? People like to invest in areas in institutions which are financially stable. That might sound a bit controversial, especially for people who are doing the startup. You have to demonstrate to me as a potential donor or as a potential investor that this is what you've been able to do with the resources that you have. And therefore, what you are asking from a partner is to help scale some of the initiatives that you deploy. Therefore, how you use the resources you have to achieve impact, however little those resources are, would give me some impetus in making a decision that I can trust you with finances. So financial resources becomes critical on how they're being managed and what you're able to do with the financial resources that you have. So it doesn't matter the size of the financial resource that you have. You've got entities which are $40 billion worth of assets. Then you are a startup here with $1,000 worth of assets that you're basically handling. How the $40 billion worth of asset is being managed and how the $1,000 worth of assets is being managed, if again there's efficiency in your process capabilities, then partner can start trust you, and then you'll be able to kind of scale that. There's also the questions around what are the products and the services that you give, to your clients? Why do you exist? From an NGO perspective, what are the programs that you are having? They might not be product, they might not be services, but they could be programs that you're basically undertaking. Oh, I want to alleviate poverty. I want to do financial literacy. Those are not services in the program. Those are programs. You want to do an empowerment program, girl child empowerment program. Those are programs, especially there. I want to do a cyber, or ICT training. I want to set up a community water project, so that now I'm able to impact. I want to start a solar renewable energy entity, to be able to do that. So again, for NGO track, they're about the program side. What programs and activities and initiative, do you have, that, you're basically seeking, support for, or you think that they give you a competitive advantage over the others in terms of the strength. So examples, to the strength includes abundance of financial resources, or how you use the little that you got. The brand component of it, some entities have got very strong brand, but if you're a startup, you would have not built the brand. But again, it takes time to build a brand, economies of scale. Maybe you're operating a model of economies of scale that gives you a competitive advantage, or your prices are low for the business side, the people who are doing the products and services. You've done your market analysis and say, I will be doing a milk processing, and 1 liter of milk I will sell at 50 cents or 1 shilling less, or $1 less or 50 cents less, regardless of the, depending on the denomination that you're basically using. So you look at what your competitors have, and you're kind of deploying, a pricing strategy, so that people come to you on the account that you've got, slightly reasonable pricing model. Superior management in terms of, you've got a pool of talent where people are more creative, and their attitude towards work, their attitude towards performance, their attitude towards customer service, is top notch. So people invest in organizations through people. There's nobody who will give organization, because organizations do not receive anything. So the human beings that are employed or you are working with for an entity can be your great resource, because they're the ones going out of their way to make it happen for the entity. So we always need to be very careful on who do we onboard in different capacity, either at the board level, at an employee level, or even at the volunteerism level, to be able to speak about the entity, speak about the impact of the entity, speak about what you're doing well, and speak about areas of growth and potential areas that you'd like, support in terms of the gap. So again, the human resource talent, how you manage that becomes critical. Your better marketing skills could be something that you can attribute as strength that you can push. Maybe you have committed employees that do not just consider an 8 to 5. They will be like, if there's work, we will do work until probably it's done. So timing is not part of their consideration. So this could be strength areas to look at. Then we got opportunities. Opportunities, these are chances to make a greater profit for the people who are doing the business track, and a chance to make greater impact for people who are doing the NGO track. So chances, what are the opportunities do you see? And some of these opportunities could be in terms of, if you're dealing with the girl child education, it could be many partners that are coming, many foundations that are coming to sponsor a girl child education. And therefore now the opportunity you see there is, how can I bring all these partners on board so that instead of educating and supporting 1,000 girls, in East Africa, I am able to support 10 folds, 1,000 times, times 10, that is 10,000 girls, across 10,000 girls across Africa, covering the different regions. So you're able to look at that in terms of impact, opportunities, the growth of the foundations that are coming up, the growth of the partners that are interested in climate change, and all that. So you see that as an opportunity, and you're basically looking at this, how do I position my NGO, or how do I position my business to be able to basically scale that? There's always rise when an organization can benefit from conditions or its environment to plan, execute strategies to enable it to become more profitable, especially for business. You look at the gap and how people are feeling. Maybe the other side, they are not too responsive to clients' needs. They don't resolve clients' complaints within 24 hours or 48 hours. You see a gap there. That how then do I become more efficient as an opportunity so that I can bring those clients, who are dissatisfied from the opponent to come into the fore, depending on the activity. So you're looking at opportunity based on the competitors' weaknesses, and based on your strategy to tap into those untapped clients. Organizations should be careful and recognize opportunity and grasp them whenever they arise. And opportunities may arise from market, they can arise from competition, they can arise from new government regulations, they can arise from just the needs that are just evolving. So let's keep track of what those opportunities are and coil ourselves to be able to tap and benefit and make ourselves ready as startups or ideas that we've got or existing entities to be able to tap into the opportunities that view to scale. Examples: rapid market growth, revival of farms, changing customer beneficiary needs because the needs of clients equally change. There will be products and services and new technology that will be coming up. There will be economic boom. Right now, there's crisis of dollars, in Kenya, for example, and probably I think is the same, in the continent, in view of the uncertainty and the wars, the global wars that are out there. So again, some people are tapping into it, and issues of dollar trade or treasury trading has become a big thing. If you go to exchange, you can move from one vendor to another. If you get a difference of 2 shillings or 3 shillings or 5 shillings in exchange, and then now you'll be able to make a lot, from it. So trade, that aspect of, forex trading, is a big ticket, right now. And there are entities that are coming in and saying that, pay us in dollars because our local currencies are not very stable, and all that, so that we're able kind of to tap into this. So there are a lot that are happening, government, deregulation, economic boom, the new products, sometimes, new ideas comes in, creative ideas, that you can actually tap into as opportunities to look at. But what is critical also, as you are looking at the strength and you're looking at the opportunities, there are always weaknesses that or that we have. Understanding your weaknesses is the greatest way to improve. If you put your head under the sun and saying everything is okay, everything is fine, then you will never grow. The best advice, to entities that are starting up is be a learning institution, be a learning not-for-profit, be a learning business, and always recognize what you are not doing well. If you are able to recognize what you're not doing well, then those are the areas that you need to invest significant amount of time and resources so that you improve on those areas, because that is what will make your competitors rip from you. If you don't recognize that, that is what, in donors, partners are coming to invest in areas that needs institutional improvement, and those are areas of, weaknesses. So again, characteristics that places the firm at a disadvantage stage, becomes critical. So maybe your pricing model, makes you in a position, regardless of whether you offer quality, makes you in a position that certain clients might not be able to afford you or come to you. Things that distract the organization from the ability to attain a core goal, or influence. And some of them are maybe operational inefficiency, systems are just not there. For example, at some point here at USIU Africa, we've got 25,000 alumni spread all over 100 countries globally. If I want, our partners or our alumni to engage with the institution, and some of them wants to donate to maybe scholarships, and somebody is in Zambia, in Malawi, in the US, in Canada, how do I enable them to be able to easily donate from wherever they are. So that informed us, because we recognized it was a weakness on our end, actually acquire an alumni engagement system that enables us to engage with our alumni, from wherever they are, and they can make contribution from wherever they are. They can update their records from wherever they are, because we did recognize that system is an issue for us to engage with our over 25,000 alumni spread across, different countries. So we need to recognize what those weaknesses are, and then that helps us to have mitigation, on what are some of the things that we need to basically do. As a startup, one of the things you can actually realize or notice that a weakness is your ability to raise enough resources to be able to do one or two things to scale. So that is an area which is a weakness. So recognizing that you do not have enough finances to be able to implement a huge program makes you in a position to say, now, what do I need to do to basically bring in resources? So at this point, I need to maybe invest in, asking somebody or hiring a fundraiser, to support me, or the CEO can become a fundraiser, or the startup, the owner of the business can say, I need to pitch to more partners, more donors, so that now I can get money coming in to support my operations. So it's acknowledging that I do not have enough resources. It's a weakness. And this is what I need to do, the steps I need to take to be able to get those resources. So these weaknesses are factors that do not meet standards we feel they should meet. However, weaknesses can always be controllable. They must be minimized or eliminated at all costs. So if your weakness is insufficient finances, then you work towards coming out of it. So the questions around finances do not become a hindrance. Limited financial resources, weak spending on research and development is a weak area. You go, for example, as an entity, make a decision and say that I want to go and invest on a well in a certain area. And when you want to go and invest in a well in a certain area, because you are deciding for the community who are struggling, with walking long distances to get water, and saying, I want to get you a well because I think that's the solution that you need. And you end up giving people a well, and later they tell you, actually, we were not interested in a well. Because the reason why we love walking those long distances is it gives us an opportunity to bond and have a conversation together. So you are seeing a problem on behalf of a community, but that community does not see it as a problem. And then you end up giving a solution, which is a wrong solution. Maybe they want something else. So weakness in spending in a research and development before you start. That is why your week one was critical. Invest in research, invest in market analysis to help you identify the gaps, and then craft what are the core values, the missions to be able to help you, align, what you've identified and what you'd like to do. And then now get into now where we are right now in terms of now the analysis. This idea, this entity, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, what are the opportunities that I see, and what are the threats? So investing in weak spending on research is critical, and you can make a mistake if you don't do that. Then sometimes we have very narrow program areas, especially for not-for-profit. Somebody comes and I say, I want to focus on a girl child, education, and that's it. Within this girl child education, for example, there may be health requirements for the girl child. There may be the education requirement for the girl child. This girl child needs some, toiletries, and all that needs to basically support them, and all. So there's a whole ecosystem around this girl child that you can have diversification, and say that I'm not just focusing on a girl child education, I'm focusing on things to do with capacity building, health, and all that, because you want to make this also awesome. What diversification also means is that you will never dry out. What if you do not get a lot of support on one area, then you should be able to get the support, in another area. So when you add all those support, then that brings in stability for the not-for-profit, and also brings in stability even for profit, even for profit entities. So it's always important to diversify and not have a narrow product line. Don't just say I'm selling milk. Check the guys with shops. They sell almost everything. Why do they sell almost everything? So that now, if pens it's not a season for pens, then maybe it's a season for somebody gets, some biscuits, some bread, perishable, durable, and all that. So you have a diversification. You're saying that, at least that cautions the owner of the business and the owner of the startup. So again, let's identify if the product line or the services or the programs are a bit small, let's diversify because it helps with the stability. Then there are some entities that you have a good product, you have a good program, but selling it is a problem. So recognizing that you have poor marketing skills helps you to be able to say, where do I need to inject capital, to be able to have this, sorted. What are these threats? These are external environments that you do not have control over. They're beyond your institutional control. And again, they arise when the conditions are jeopardized. They jeopardize the reliability and even the profitability, of the organization. So a government comes and say, for example, we offer scholarship opportunities as a not-for-profit. The government, and we bring in refugees from all over the continent and beyond. And then the government says that, you don't have permission to bring in refugees because you're not an authorized entity in as much as they're coming for education. Then they struggle to do what? To even issue the pupil pass and the travel documents, for your refugees to come and study. Now, that is something that is beyond the institution. You want to support refugees, outside the country, but the regulators takes their time or do not have protocols or policies around. So do I stop there? Recognizing that it's a threat and I do not have control over, then you start advocacy, with government. You start collaboration because you've recognized that is a weakness. That's a threat. If you don't have government enacting policies to support refugee education in foreign countries, then, you will never be in business if that is not addressed. So understanding the threats and figuring out how do I collaborate and how do we work with other entities, in fact, to influence the ecosystem. So if that's problematic for us, then I need to partner with other universities, to advocate jointly to the government, the private sectors, be able to have, even to policymakers in terms of the, members of parliament, parliamentarians and all that. So it's important to recognize what those threats are and take a collaborative approach to address it, in terms of policies, in terms of regulations, in terms of the system change. So this compound the vulnerability when especially they relate to weaknesses. So threats are uncontrollable. You don't have control over them, but you can influence. When the threat comes, the stability and survival is at stake. Your stability of your entity, stability of your not-for-profit is at stake. So, and what are these? You get entry of foreign competitors, especially for business. Somebody is introducing a new product and you've been in existence, they come with new technology and you are there, your technology does not scale, you struggle with internal operational efficiency while these guys. So again, constantly knowing what is out there and investing in research and development and, creativity, innovation, and always trying to improve your product or program offerings becomes critical, but need to understand what are these threats, especially the economic downturn as well. They are beyond you, but at least you can do something, in terms of influencing the ecosystem to ensure that, that is sorted. What do we aim to achieve from this? SWOT analysis will help you make decisions in terms of comparing ideas. And it is important to write these things down because once you write them down, threats, opportunities, strengths, weaknesses, you will constantly be referring to them. They will help you pitch better. They will help you put a case for your entity. They will help you know where to do the investment. They will help you make decisions. They will help you understand your competitors. So it's always important to write them down, not leave them in your head. So anything else is to help. Remember, we say this is a planning tool. It brings a clearer common purpose and understanding of the factors for success. Once you've done that analysis, you will know what do I need to do to be successful as the founder of this entity, or as the employee, or as even the organization. What do I need to do? And anybody who comes and finds that documented and filed can easily move fast, without having to do it themselves. The aim of SWOT, again, is to help organize important factors linked to success and failure, both in the business world and not-for-profit world. They help to analyze issues that led to failure in the past. They will tell you that this is why you failed. You did not invest in A, B, C, D, but going forward, if you want to succeed, you can do, or if you want to scale, this is what you need to do. They provide a linearity to the decision-making process, allowing complex ideas to be presented in a systematic manner. It's a planning tool. This will help you to present your issues better. Who needs to know this, and what are the importance of the SWOT analysis? When, again, this is useful tool for management. You've gotten, fresh targets, financial targets that you need to do. You need to do your analysis on where you need to invest. You are assigned a new job. If you've just gotten a new job, how will you understand even the people that you're working with? How will you understand even the organization that you're getting into? So you'll have to do a quick scan of that entity so that now it helps you with your new job. It helps you with the entity, especially those who are also looking for, seeks to improve their performance. It's always good to understand your job and saying that this is where we are not doing well, and these are the areas I need investment. For the organization, again, when revenue, cost, targets are not being achieved, that is problematic. So they'll help you to understand your performance, and therefore now you'll be able to put in the right support. Again, it helps you also to launch new ventures, new ideas, because now you understand what the competitors have, what you got, and what are the new product line or the program line for not-for-profit. In terms of business unit, and this is not just a business unit for the commercial side, but also not-for-profit could be having different departments. You can start a not-for-profit, but you have different lines. Those different lines are new areas. Again, you need to always do an analysis. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the opportunities? What do you see as threats? Including internal departments could be a nightmare, and that is why now we need always to figure out how to sort this. How do we conduct this? Ladies and gentlemen, you have to establish, the objectives. You have to establish the objectives for doing this, the purpose of doing this. Maybe I want to understand, just how we are doing as an entity. So if you have that, that helps you to do the scope. The reason why I'm doing SWOT analysis, I think I want to scale. I want to introduce new programs. I want to start new product line. I want to introduce new services. So I'm doing the SWOT with a view to start new product lines. Why am I doing this? I probably need an expert. Once you've done the objectives, know why you're doing it, then you can select the people who can help you with the SWOT analysis in terms of looking at who are the people who would be useful to help with your SWOT analysis. If you're doing it for your entity, look at the heads of the different heads of department, your board, check around you, your friends, can actually help you, give you some ideas, on your SWOT and your organization if you give them some preliminary information. Allocate some research and information gathering task, in terms of just preparing some background about the entity, the vision, what you want to do, and all that. Create a workshop environment, just to encourage an atmosphere conducive to free flow of information, where now people do not feel like, they're getting what they basically need, and all that. So we need to create an environment, where people feel that they can make their meaningful, contribution. You have to list your strength in terms of just listing, list your weaknesses, list the opportunities, and list the threats. It's just listing. You can always be beefing up, and based on all that, you can just list. Once you list, it gives you an idea, how does this link up to why I'm actually doing this in terms of establishing the objectives. Evaluate your listed ideas against the objectives, and carry your findings forward. Once you've done your SWOT analysis, carry your finding. And the finding comes in the form of, these are the opportunities that I've identified. These are the action areas that I want to put in place to tap into the opportunities that I've identified. These are the weaknesses. These are action areas we are doing to be able to address these weaknesses and eliminate them completely if we are unable to minimize. This is our strength. If your result comes out that you're good at something, then you don't drop the ball. You continue doing it better and better and better, because that is what gives you a competitive advantage. If again, you find some of the threats, these threats, you come the action area. What do I need to do to eliminate or minimize some of these threats? Remember, threats are things which are beyond the organization. So the best way to push it is to work collectively. Can we start a consortium? Can we advocate together? How do we add our voice, to influence policy, to influence regulatory framework, to influence, legislation agenda? So again, working with others, to do that. But you can only do that once you've identified what this is. So you have an action area, in each and any of those areas, and then looking at how then do I carry this forward. This is just an analysis of internal versus external. External would be opportunities that you want to tap into. The threats we talked about. Internal would be weaknesses, and the competitive advantage in terms of the strength. So how then do we eliminate, based on what we identified, these weaknesses in terms of the strategies that we put in place to do that? So we are here in terms of, again, you guys are WMI scholars, alumni, based on these conversations, you can start thinking through strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat. And probably at the point of us having some deliberation and conversations, we'll be able to figure out, how you could make your contribution, adding your voice to this. These are the benefits of SWOT analysis. It helps you to know your competition, and not just competition. This competition is basically for commercial entities, but again, for non-commercial entities, it helps you know what else is out there. It helps you know what other people are doing, as well, and how they're doing it, so that now it helps with the improvement. It's a decision-making tool, and it helps also to focus, that this is how well we are doing. This is what we need to do to continue to be on the game. In terms of the pitfalls, again, this can be very subjective. Two people rarely come up with the same version, the same final version of the SWOT, because it's highly subjective, but again, use it as a guide, but not as a prescription. Don't just say, I did this, and then this is the prescription. Just use it as a guide to guide your actions, to guide your decisions, to guide your planning. May cause organizations to view circumstances very simplistic. Again, use this as a way of looking at the future and looking at what you can do, in the meantime. Categorizing aspect of strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat might be very subjective as well, because it depends with individual judgments. And that is why it needs to be performed at a very high level, at the owner level, or the founder level, or at the senior leadership level, sanctioning such, so that now, again, it's for purposes of improvement. You just do things and you keep them under the shell. It lacks a detailed structure, so key elements may get missed as a result of this. And that's why now you need to be considering what are the other options, what are the other tools that we basically use. Developing strategies for your SWOT comes from what we call the TOS analysis. You look at the strength you have identified, then you come up with ways that you use those strengths to maximize on the opportunity. So that is called strength opportunity strategy, where now you've identified what your strengths are, and they're looking at how do I maximize, the strength that I've gotten, for the opportunities that I've identified. Look at how those strengths can be used to minimize your threats as well, so that you have identified, and use the opportunities you have identified to develop strategies that will minimize the weaknesses, avoid the threats, that is weakness, threats, opportunities. In terms of this, the choice, the TOS analysis, the strength, internal positive, weaknesses, internal negative, opportunities that present itself. So this is just what I have described in a diagrammatic form, and then you should be able to, to have this. Again, I have sample. I know time, is running out. So we're looking at the sample not-for-profit organizations in terms of the analysis. If you allow, I can just, share, just one. I know we've got, quickly, just for a few minutes. Just wanted to stop the share. Yes, thank you. So that now I get the SWOT analysis, which I can quickly run you through so that now you see how we got this, in terms of yes, I hope you're able to see my screen. Okay. So this is just a quick SWOT analysis, for an entity. Of course, big entity, but we are looking at what are our strengths, what are the weaknesses, what do we see as opportunities, and then just a good level in terms of the strength. We were boasting of quality infrastructure, academic programs, conducive environment, and then now in terms of the weaknesses, we still, even with the big entities, we do not have enough finances. So the finances would still be always a recurring issue, even with the big entities. So it's not only just the small entities that talks about that. So this sample I will share, and then of course the team will be able to share with you. But in terms of the opportunities, we've looked at what many unexploited opportunities for partnership leveraging on the university reputation. So we identified that our strength is in our reputation. We have a very good brand. So how then do we leverage on that to be able to cultivate more partners? But again, regulators are always a threat. So if you check number 3, regulations of Commission for University Education, insecurity, especially terrorism. These are things beyond the institution, but working closely, to be able to do that. So I want to stop there. Happy to welcome reactions, comments, as we continue to engage. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ines. I dropped up for a bit. Sorry.
That's fine.
So I have a question. Just before I ask a question, you wanted to present the 2 slides?
No, I've done the presentation in terms of just the samples. So again, I just wanted to give an opportunity to our scholars. If there are maybe burning questions, we're more than happy to engage what their thoughts are, what their reflections are. Yes.
Yeah, so maybe I can ask Fred to read the questions that were written there before I dropped off. In the meantime, as Fred is working on that, I have a question for you. So you mentioned that SWOT analysis is something that is done throughout the, let's say, implementation of a project. And you also mentioned that you can use the SWOT analysis to identify maybe if a project is to something like monitor the progress of an organization. Maybe could you just give us the difference between SWOT analysis and conducting monitoring and evaluation of a project?
Yes, that's a brilliant question. Thank you so much, Joyce. The SWOT analysis and the monitoring and evaluation of the organization. So the SWOT analysis, number one, helps you. The SWOT analysis helps you. If you look at the 4 areas we've looked at, opportunities, strength, weaknesses, so that is what the SWOT analysis will cover. Things which are internal to the organization and things which are, external, which maybe the organization do not have, control over. When it comes to monitoring and evaluation is you are conducting now an in-depth study based on what the parameters you had set. So you had said, for example, this year, I want to have raised 300,000, in revenue or in income to support this project. I want to have impacted 50 young girls, being in school. I want to have, changed policies, in terms of the organization, I would have had an approved organizational structure. So there are things you have set yourself that you wanted to do as an entity. So monitoring and evaluation helps you to understand how well are you doing against those parameters that you have actually set. So if you are able to do that, then you'll be able to know the distance. And then the SWOT analysis is just giving you where we are to understand which direction we want to take and what do we need to get rid of, what do we need to improve. The other one, the M&D, is like I had set some standards and organization that 6 months. I am now want to monitor and find out how have I done against the 6 months targets that I've actually set for myself. I don't know whether that's helpful.
Yes, it is very helpful. It has answered my question. There's a comment here. Catherine Nangadia is saying very true as about what you're discussing initially. Being narrow focused has been a limitation for me, while spreading thin seems to drown resources. So this was Catherine comments based on the SWOT analysis that you were presenting during the initial part of the presentation. And then Claude Ezekiel is saying, thank you, sir. He's definitely learned a lot. And then Claude is asking, can we not do SWOT analysis before before starting a project? I think he meant, can we do a SWOT analysis before starting a project?
Yes, I've got Claude's comments. So Claude, it depends on, because again, we've mentioned why is SWOT important. It's a decision-making tool, it's a planning tool, it helps you to organize your thoughts. Again, this is the mistake people do. They go ahead and start projects, they go ahead and start entities. Yes, you will start, it depends on how quickly you can transition and document some of those areas, because again, now planning if not planning, for something is actually you're setting yourself for failure. So that's why now, if it's a planning tool, it's supposed to help you, with the planning and help you understand the project in totality. That's why now it's important. This project that I want to start, what are the potential opportunities? What are the potential strengths? What are the weaknesses? What are the threats? So it helps you to understand the project in totality. That is why now it's important to do your SWOT analysis before you start the project. But the SWOT analysis is not the only thing you're doing. Remember, the SWOT analysis is supported by the market research. It's also supported by, some of the other things that you'll be doing, in terms of, even the value, vision, alignment, and all that. But it's also the question of SMART. And you ask a good question. What is the difference between it and SMART? So SMART is basically, you'll have people saying, can you set a SMART objectives? So the state of SMART is more of, how clear, are you? And remember, everything else you are handling in terms of the objectives, and all that. This is more of how clear are you with your objectives, with your goals, and all that kind of stuff. But it is not a tool, and it is not a planning mechanism. So SMART is just a way of organizing your thoughts in terms of alignment, of your objective. If I get the comment of SMART, correctly. But SWOT, this has established assessment, tools. There are a couple of others, that we can always be checking out for.
Thank you for that. Claudia is answered 100%. He's very, very happy. And Francis is asking, he's thanking you for your presentation, and then he needs you to help with an example of what can be the weaknesses of a production business, except limited or insufficient capital and advertisement.
So even the production business is also the efficiency of the machines that you're getting. Because again, now you could get all outdated, machines, that you're getting. Can also get in terms of even your product line. How do you transfer and organize? Because I've worked before in a production, industry, and I can tell you, even the human resource, how you organize your human resource, becomes very critical, to the success, of it. So the weaknesses could also be how you organize your resources, human resources within the production farm. How efficient are your machines within the production farm? Those could be weakness areas and potential areas of improvement. Of course, there are questions around limitations of budget, and how you sell out there. But if you produce your products cheaply and efficiently, you will be able to sell reasonably, and you'll be able to get more clients. So it's just how you play it out. Anything that you can do to improve efficiency and effectiveness and produce your product reasonably low will help you pass on, not pass on the cost, and making therefore now, your margin or the profits are slightly much better.
Thank you so much, Ines. Let me read through Catherine's comment. She says, passion for a project or business is surely not enough. A lot of background work needs to be done at inception and throughout the implementation. And then she's thanking you for making it very clear for her. And then Yusuf is saying, from your explanation, I can see that there's a thin line between strength and opportunities. So please, sir, is there a way that one can convert some of his or her opportunities to strength and vice versa?
It's a good one. So the question therefore is the question of how then do we appreciate what opportunities are and what strengths are? So number one, strengths are internal to the organization. That's the difference. So you cannot convert an opportunity to a strength because you've not done it already. It helps you, like, now with my strength, how can I get more opportunities? So let me give an example. For example, it's like your strength is you're dealing with a very good cause that everybody loves, impacting the community, girl child education. Allow me to pick on girl child education. Now that's the strength. The opportunity around it is like there's so many partners that are willing to bring in resources to support girl child education. So you're using your strength because you have a unique program on girl child education. You're a darling of all potential partners there. You're a darling of donors. So you're saying, how do I use my strength to get more donors on board? So now that is the distinction between opportunity and strength. Strength is what you're already doing well. Opportunities is what you can tap into based on what you're already doing well. So I don't know whether that clarifies, that. But you cannot convert you cannot convert opportunity into strength. In fact, the more you use strength to get more opportunities, then more opportunities continue to come, because you've used your strength very well, to get into those opportunities.
Thank you, Ines. He says, thank you very much. He's understood your explanation very well. And then there's one burning question here. He wants to, yes, Juma wants to start a business, and she said, I carry out SWOT analysis, and the threat is more than the opportunities. Should I stop the business?
In fact, the beauty is once you realize that the threat is more than what the opportunities.
Yes.
Or what? Can you repeat? So
yes,
if
the threat is more than opportunity.
So again, our threats and opportunities are not a deterrent to you starting the business. Start. Remember, what is critical for you is, do I have some strengths and have I acknowledged what my weaknesses are? And then you use your strength to grab more opportunities. Remember, threats, you do not have much control of these threats. In as much as the threats are there, you continue to advocate, because if you don't start, nobody will start, and it will continue to be a threat, and that will be a potential bottleneck for other people who want to get into some of that entities. So I would rather you start. If you're the last person you started and failed, then somebody else would have already gotten some ecosystem change that you have started, and you will say that I am glad I was part of the journey. Remember, threats are done as a collective. You are not doing it as an individual. How do we have 10 businesses advocating for a conducive working environment? How do we have 10 entities advocating for a policy change, a regulation change? So those ones you do as a collective. Therefore now, threats and opportunities, regardless of which one is more than the other, should not be a deterrent on starting. If you have a brilliant idea and you know that there's some strength to you, and in fact, if it's just your passion to start that business, please go for it. As long as you recognize what those opportunities are, the weaknesses are, and the strength are, and you constantly put in the work, the effort to get that up there, then I think we should be in business. But allow me to comment also on Catherine's point that passion, apparently might not just be the only thing in a project. There's a lot that happens. A passion for a project is an brilliant ingredient to a success of the project. So please do not underestimate your passion to get it going. In fact, that is what will give you resilience amidst the adversities of threats, regulations, and all that. So get that going. But I love the fact that you are recognizing that in addition to passion, there are other things that you need to put in place to be able to convert that passion to a reality and something that is beautiful and something that is impactful. But allow me also to mention, Catherine, and of course the scholars that are here, I have also started a foundation, that is going to impact young people, in the communities. And it's the question of, I am taking that foundation through all these steps in terms of the market analysis, what are the gaps, what are the things, because my issue is not financial. I can finance, that foundation to take off, but the question therefore is, they will tell you money follows programs. And if you have a brilliant idea, money will follow your ideas, and partners will always be willing to invest in a well-thought idea, a well-thought startup, a well-thought project, a well-thought entity in terms of the NGO. So again, move out there, use this tested mechanism, get you out there, and then you should be able to make progress.
Thank you so much, Ines. I have learned so much from this, and I'm so sure we've all learned. As Juma is saying, thank you, sir, for your explanation. I'm very happy to attend your session today. May God bless you. And I also want to thank you. I have also taken home a lot of points. I've been writing down a lot of them. And I didn't know when I get a new job, I need to do a SWOT analysis of it. I didn't know being employed for 5 years, I need to do a SWOT analysis of my employment throughout that. I have learned that. And also I've learned that threats are things that your organization or someone has no control over, but they can influence them through advocacy and collaborations. I am so sure our able scholars have taken on so much information, and we want to thank you again, Ines, for your continued support in WMI and impacting us with so much knowledge that we will require during implementation of our various projects. Allow me
Yes. Sorry, Joyce. Just before you conclude, I just have a small advice to our callers. Please do SWOT analysis to your friends before you bring them into your project. Before you bring them to your startups, before you bring them to your business, do SWOT analysis in them, because they can be a potential threat to even your success. They can be a potential threat to your business, so that you identify what are their strengths, what value are they bringing on board, what opportunities in terms of networks are they bringing on board, what are their weaknesses, so that you know how to even handle them when there are disagreement within the board or within the organization. And what do you see as threat, because they can also be a potential threat, to the success of your enterprise. So please, this SWOT analysis, do your personal SWOT analysis, do your friend's SWOT analysis, you do the organization's SWOT analysis. And Joyce, as you mentioned, when you get a new job, do a SWOT analysis for your boss as well, so that it helps how to work and relate with your boss. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And to our scholars, thank you so much for attending. Without you, we wouldn't have this session today. Thank you so much all for attending, and have a good evening. May God bless you all.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.